Okay. Yeah, I think we have young professors, I think. Mm.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's good. That's nice. I think this professor, you're probably working with Professor it's James Young, right?
Is it
James
Yeku
Yeku
or
is Yeku Yeku is Yeku.
Oh,
okay?
Yeku is in African American studies, I think.
okay, fantastic.
So
Oh,
I think we have the
yeah,
room back now. We have
and
we have it
yep,
like back.
yep.
Dr. Matthew, can you hear us from the room?
Yes, I can. We're having technical difficulties and we're trying to share the panelist slide. Just give us a few minutes to resolve that.
I think the network is still kind of wonky, but
I think they are still working with the network.
yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I think we are back again.
Can we share? No, they are not online. Oh, I can join online. Share it. Okay, I'll do that. Can you send it soon through the email that that's it.
Wow. You don't have a digital opportunity. You have a digital opportunity program.
Yes, okay then.
You can just talk to yourself. Just repeat this garage. You apologize for the technical difficulties.
Maybe we need really to help us do some things to appeal to some spirit that are disturbing.
That's fine. If you can do that, we'll appreciate it.
Somebody will share it. Yes, somebody will share it.
Have you gotten a link?
Yeah. I'll. Okay, so.
Minutes to share the slide here.
Is it all the slides that are unable to share?
Yeah, you said?
All the slides we are unable to share.
Just this one. This
So
one.
because if we have someone call like this, maybe we can take it.
And that's what we're trying to do. Now it should go online using the link.
So what I'm saying is one of the presenters online can start that.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So maybe
it depends on the case.
Adoba can, if Adoba is ready, you can
That's
have
better.
Adoba.
That's better. Why we do that? Yeah.
Adoba, can you hear us? Hello? Please unmute yourself. Ibrahim Aloba.
Coming up for is the net. Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so we can take you for the next 10 minutes if you are ready.
Okay, so can you hear me now?
Yes. We can take you for the next 10 minutes.
Okay, 10 minutes.
Yes.
All right, I'll try to share my screen and hopefully that works.
Okay. Okay, we can see it.
I think I can see it from here.
Okay, I think the network keeps going back and forth, but I'll just
We can
start
see it.
nonetheless. Okay, well, thank you for taking the time to join this panel. I want to express my gratitude to you for inviting me to participate on the panel, and I hope we have a fruitful discussion. So, what I'm presenting today is an aspect of my dissertation. So, my dissertation generally is looking at the uh, persecution and renown as one minute aspect of a chapter in my dissertation. So, pardon if some things I'm saying is going to be, coming off as abstract, but it's just an aspect of one chapter in a larger dissertation. Stood trial in the Judicial Council of Ibadan. They were charged with the death of Oyadare. Oyadare was Adeboye's husband. One day, while Oyadare and Adeboye were having sex in their matrimonial home, Oyadare frankly he died later. Charged Ojo, the concubine, for secretly putting magun, a deadly sex cause, on the wife Adeboye. The court claimed that Ojo's intention was to kill Oyadare by inflicting Adeboye, the wife, with magun. Magun was a malicious method of controlling both men's and women's sexuality and was rampantly used in colonial Yoruba land. Native court records from colonial Yoruba or across colonial Yoruba are littered with such cases. Husbands and male concubines often resort to magun to target their lovers' other sexual partners. In this particular 1918 trial in Ibadan, Ojo, the concubine, pled not guilty. In her testimony, though, Adeboye, the wife, told the court she suspected Ojo inflicted her with magun because she had sexual intercourse with him just a day before she would later have the consequential sexual intercourse with her husband, the late Oyadare. Apart from Adeboye's testimony, the court in Ibadan had no other evidence to consider. In fact, no physical evidence whatsoever directly tied Ojo to this crime. In the court, headed by Baale Shitu and the Ariago of Ibadan, they asked Ojo if he could provide the cure to leave the magun on Adeboye so that she would not die. Ojo responded that he will indeed provide the cure and even do it for free. Ojo's response was the proverbial smoking gun, the court's eureka moment in this itoto weak case. The court had finally found the evidence to convict Ojo of Ayadare's murder. Baale Shitu and the court consequently submitted, speaking through the court scribe, that these accused Ojo must surely know about this poisoning matter, and this is a serious charge indeed, but cannot be confirmed by evidence. And if Ojo know nothing about the poison, how do you know the medicine that will kill it? Unquote. Ojo was found guilty and asked to pay £5 to the court and another £5 to Oyadare's relatives. In Ojo's trial, the native court created two unanswered questions. One, why would the court declare in its judgment that it had no evidence but nonetheless find Ojo guilty of using a so-called quote-unquote bad native medicine? And second, why was Ojo not charged of or convicted of murder even though the court ruled that he applied the fatal magun? The muddied interpretations of evidence that problematize this case also typifies the native court's general approach in cases involving both supernatural phenomena and Olorisha litigants. Olorisha litigants stood criminal trial on a wide range of accusations, from interfering with nature like causing rain not to fall, to healing diseases like Ilegbono using Onishopona formulas. The quest for evidence in the native court was a messy and contentious discourse. It thrust the colonial judicial system into the center of legal and religious tensions in colonial Yoruba land. Although native courts had to apply native customs, the expectation was that these native customs would not go too far from colonial laws, that is, ordinances, criminal codes, etc., which were constructed using the English legal framework. In the 1910s, during the early years of the native court in Yoruba land, the then Governor General of Nigeria, Frederick Lugard, articulated that part of the colonial government's priority for the native court was to limit the interference of district officers and residents. Instead, the government was interested in the native courts' autonomy and allowed them, court, as Lugard referred, or as Lugard mentioned, to increase the influence and make them more effective instrument of justice by teaching them, the Yoruba judges, the elementary rules of evidence and by enforcing strict impartiality and integrity, unquote. That proposed knowledge of elementary rule of evidence remained elusive, however, among Yoruba judges when Olorisha litigants stood trial for practicing the so-called witchcraft. Yoruba judges used intuition rather than adhering to a set guideline to define evidence, and the goalpost of justice shifted based on what they considered sufficient to be evidence or lack thereof from one case to another.
Practices so long, you never have. So it causes judges to hardly expect similarities on the basis of lack of evidence. The professional
To do better in the definition of witchcraft cases and overturn them. For instance, because the native court did not demonstrate it had evidence that informed or confirmed the accused was guilty, native court judges were blamed. Instead, the problem, they argue, stemmed from the colonial government's ambiguity in laws like the 1983 or the laws like 1893 Charms Ordinance and the 1903 Ordeal Witchcraft and Juju Ordinance, which technically collapsed the ritual that undergird Orisha religion and equate them with witchcraft. Writing through the press, these Yoruba critics demanded that colonial officers cease equating what they do not understand, that is, Orisha religion, with European socio-legal categories that are alien to Africa, like quote unquote witchcraft. This Yoruba elite demanded, or should I say, threatened the colonial government, demanding on one occasion, for example, that the Honorable Attorney General, that the next time he formulates an order in council prohibiting the worship of a particular juju, he needs to fortify this order with cogent reasons in the shape of an unbiased exposition of the rights and doctrines of the religion it proscribes. This they educated the Attorney General and other colonial leaders that all that appears ugly is not even evil at all. They suggest further that instead of banning an entire denomination of Orisha religion, like Oro or Shopmano worship, only specific rituals or activities that significantly affect the community should be proscribed. This outside pressure. You said what?
You need to start running up.
Yeah, I have 1 more minute. This outside pressure and increase in the number of frivolous sentences given on the back of questionable evidence or the lack thereof, the native court judges caused disagreement among district officers, residents, and even the governor of Nigeria, so that by the 1930s, the native courts had so failed to erect a consistent framework for considering evidence that the colonial government was forced to change course in 1933. There was a very massive conference of colonial district officers and residents, and even the governor in Kaduna trying to review this portion of evidence. And but as you would guess, even this intervention only further complicated the relationship between native courts, Yoruba judges, and the expectation of colonial jurisprudence. Eventually, this new intervention and the resulting confusion did not provide any significant relief for both Olorisha litigants and other regular litigants like Ojo.
Okay, thank you so much for that wonderful. We will take all questions after the all presentations. And I'm sure that right now, I know people are eager to ask many questions and clarifications. So, are we, is we be ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay, so we have you.
No.
10 minutes.
Yes. Good evening. So we started from dividing the items, exorcism and exorcism rituals. So I said that exorcism is the religious or spiritual practice of expelling evil spirits, demons, or other malevolent entities from a person, place, or object believed to be possessed. And I mentioned that in this paper, we conceive exorcism rituals as encompassing all practices, tools, mechanisms, and materials that are involved in the activities of demonic possession, expulsion, and abjuration. So I also said that exorcism, traditional exorcism, next slide.
I think you're watching.
No, Umar, next slide. Umar, next slide.
Oh.
So exorcism. Now, why exorcism? I mentioned that we have a lot of traditional exorcists. Now, by traditional, I mean the people we call herbalists here, Christian exorcists, most of them are Catholics. I don't know if Pentecostal churches do them, but our research is still going into that because this is work in progress. So, but we know Catholics because we have some respondents in the Catholic world, and we have seen some things from them regarding exorcism. So we also have established Muslim exorcists. But here we are looking at Islamic epistemology for this paper. Now, why exorcism? Some people might say that when they mention spirits, some people are scared. Some will say, is it real? Is it happening to anybody? But I must tell you, in 2024, we had a paper we published in New Zealand. During that paper, the CMD, I don't know if they refer to them as CMD, the head of Sheffield Teaching Hospital, called us through another scholar who was working there. So the person was a physiologist. So they said they had some issues of people who have gone through a series of surgeries, but they had no healing. So they gave us, for a start, they gave us a certain patient, a woman, they told us this woman has been battling cancer for about 7 years. Now, this woman, they said that she has done a lot of chemo, a lot of things. Now, after doing exorcism with our traditional plugs here, by God's grace, she was certified healed exactly May 3, 2025. That was last month. Now, why exorcism? Human vulnerability in spatial attacks. We are not the first to do this. Even Gildan et al. 2016, they mentioned that exorcism could come from human vulnerability, which would come from 3 aspects. Some people might be attacked by magic, sorcery, like people will call it asasi. So it can even be occult bondage or even jinn possession. Now, exorcism has more influence on a communication between the spiritual and the human realm. So we can see that we will see exorcists, traditional exorcists, communicating with the people we call spirits, devils, or jinns. Now, somebody might ask, how did you know it is the spirit that was talking? yes, we can know that the spirit is the spirit and not the human being that was talking because of some things. Example, there was a patient we had who never spoke Arabic. I mean Arabic, real Arabic. But while during exorcism sessions, she spoke, the spirit in her spoke Arabic. And I'm talking about standard Arabic, not pidgin. So things like this could mean some things. Now, apart from us, we have had scholars, Lee Mental, who conceptualize mental illnesses from the cultural lens of Islamic exorcism. Bali, who has been mentioned as the father of exorcism, he studied the vicissitudes of discourses in human relationship from an Islamic perspective. Christian Suhul is a Danish professor of archaeology who does a lot of his researches in exorcism, but through film studies. Now, Imam Mental, we also study exorcism from a YouTubeized SDG perspective. This means that somebody might not be in an exorcism section, but the person will be affected with whatever is going on in exorcism through YouTube, just watching on YouTube. This is something we have done, and that's another paper for another discussion. Now, the course of this paper is to note the interplay between distinct representational modes, images, and communicative exchange as exhibited in exorcism session. Move. Now, digging deeper. This particular patient is from Rukia Center, United Kingdom. So this patient was, they took him through audio exorcism session. So we could see from this place is a victim screaming as his neck muscles physically stand erect just because of the effect he's getting from exorcism session. Move. Now, these images. Okay, maybe I should say, how do we get these images? You could have seen these things online, but how do we get these images? We got it from, for example, let me cite an example of the second one, a band with candles, right, left, center. Now, usually when exorcism session is going on, especially when it gets to a very chronic stage, the exorcist will have to ask the possessed. That means I'm talking about the demon in the possessed. Now, okay, what did you do to him? What happened? What happened? If the demon says that you cannot solve this problem unless you go to so place. Now, when you get to so place, you meet this and this and this. So, one of such encounters, the demon mentioned that you meet this. This certain person was said to be infertile for a lot of years. So the demon mentioned that this is what the person that sent them, because they are used as messengers, not as if, though some of them attack their victims willingly, but they are also used as messengers. So, okay, no problem. so they are also used as messengers. So, Omar, move, let's go. Next. Now, the method we use here, next. The method we use here, because we are looking at images, we use Kress and Van Loen's model of visual grammar. So we chose 13 screenshots from exorcists that are in Nigeria, 4 exorcists. So those are the exorcists. So screenshot plus images that we got from these exorcists through some cases that were related by possessed victims. Now move. So just preliminary preliminary findings, because it's something that is more than this, but we will just pick some of the images. Now, this particular image was gotten from a certain victim that had marital conflict for a lot of years. She always had issues with her husband, things like that. So when they found out, this is what we saw where the demon mentioned. Now, so using representational meaning, so Kress and Van Loen has 3 meanings in his theory: representational meaning, interactional meaning, and compositional meaning. So under representational meaning, for this image, there is a representation of effigies of real people, a man and a woman. So this one is used for love magic. spiritual. No, this one is not used for magic. Okay, this one is used for marital conflict, spiritual question that they must always fight. Now, this you can see that they are not really facing each other, so they will always fight. That is their own move. 10 minutes is not move out. Oh, okay, move. Let's go to some again. Next. Okay, now next. Okay, the gamma of visual design. 10 minutes is not. Okay, before this, please. Now, the gamma of visual design. Now, okay, let's use this. Compositional meaning. One of those things we notice is that in issues like this, there is the centrality of color and sensory symbolism. So, for example, when you see red, those the people that use this, they can use some colors. Purple might translate to mystery, red, blood, power, even danger sometimes. So this compositional meaning here will mean an exposition of visual technologies. So the inclusion of organic objects such like herbs, moss, that tells us about the traditional folklore and the Africanity in these things that is happening. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure we are having the sweat time, and I'm sure the discussion after all these presentations are going to be interesting. So let's go to the next presenter, Damilolo Duola. Okay, we have you online.
Yes, hi, hello, everyone.
You have 10 minutes, please.
Okay, I would try. I'm trying to share my screen. Okay. Oh no. I'm trying to make the screen wider, but I don't know.
You have to first of all maximize the screen. Then you'll find it on the bottom. It's even there on the bottom.
Okay. Slideshow.
Anyway, you cannot even see my screen.
Okay. Is it good now?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. So I'll just quickly rush through. So I'm talking about non-governmental investments and the ethics of compulsory service for health workers. So earlier this year, the Minister of Health said that over 16,000 doctors have emigrated from Nigeria in the past 7 years. So this is a very hot topic in Nigeria about the mass migration of health workers from Nigeria to more developed countries. So this is a graph and information gotten from the WHO Global Health Statistics Database that Nigeria has 3.8 doctors per 10,000 population. And this is significantly lower 5 per 1,000 recommended by the WHO, that for any country to have a good health system, then they should have 4.45 physician population ratio. But what we have in Nigeria is significantly below the recommended WHO statistics. So the migration of health workers from Nigeria to more developed countries in the form of medical brain drain has been on the significant increase, and the effect of this migration is enormous shortage of health workers, weak health system, loss of financial investments, and unavailable healthcare to vulnerable population. So a lot of research is ongoing about, okay, what can Nigeria, developing countries, what can they do ethically to tackle medical brain drain? So it's not just about doing anything, but what can we do morally? What can we do that would be accepted, that would not violate people's rights and all in dealing with health workers' mass migration. So the dominant perspective in current research is that Nigeria, including developing countries, other developing countries. So it's not only Nigeria that is suffering medical brain drain, but I'm focusing on Nigeria in this context. So the dominant perspective is that Nigeria can adopt compulsory service to tackle brain drain. And compulsory service is a policy that mandates health workers to stay back in their country for a period of time, typically as a condition to get their license or to migrate or something. But the gist of compulsory services, health workers would be forced to stay back in the country for a specific years. And the justification that has been given in literature with the adoption of this program is, okay, health workers have received investments such as the government has trained them, the government has sent them to school, and they've enjoyed social infrastructures from their country. So health workers have a duty to compensate or return the benefits that they have received from the government. And this perspective says that compulsory service is justified based on the principle of reciprocity. So we can say that currently there is a debate in the House of Rep and in the Senate that health workers should undergo 5 years service, to stay back. And the NMA, Nigerian Medical Association, they are debating this, that, oh, it is enslavement, it is encroaching on our rights. So there is that current debate ongoing. So, since this perspective is justified by the principle of reciprocity, I adopted reciprocity as my theoretical framework in doing this research. And reciprocity is like a moral theory that says, oh, as a matter of moral obligation, when someone does good to you, you are expected to return it in proportion to the good that you receive. When you receive a good from somebody, you should return it. And reciprocity is governed by two principles: fittingness, that is, the person that is receiving the gift must see that, oh, what you are giving back is a good and a return. So a person has given you something and you want to reciprocate. The other person that is receiving must see that, oh, what you are giving back is commensurate to what I have given you. Then the second principle is commensurability. So what you are returning must be commensurate with what you have benefited, so that one person is not demanding for something excessive or something lower. This is to ensure that, okay, the gift and what you are giving back is balanced. So my research question is, does reciprocity, this principle, just service for health workers? Because the dominant argument is, oh, the Nigerian government has sponsored health workers. They have paid their fees, they have done this, they have done that. So health workers should undergo 5 years compulsory service. So to figure out whether reciprocity obtains in this case, I needed to determine whether what the government, the Nigerian government, is asking for, that is the compulsory service, is it proportional to what health workers have received? Because if you are telling health workers to spend 5 years in the country on the basis of, okay, you have sponsored them, then there has to be should I say, there has to be a way of knowing whether what you are requesting for is commensurate, is balanced with what you have given. So in this context, the giver is the Nigerian government, and what they claim they have given is education, specialized training, subsidized tuition, social infrastructures. The receiver, they are the Nigerian health workers, and what is being requested for, compulsory service. So the method that I adopted while conducting research is qualitative interviews. So I conducted a pilot study where I interviewed 5 Nigerian health workers, and I used initial survey, then qualitative interview, then I used Microsoft and in-person interviews, and I transcribed the interviews and coded it using codebook. So my sample, like I mentioned earlier, I interviewed 5 people. They were Nigerians, as well as health workers, they are institution, 2 doctors, and 5 of them are in the United States. The pseudonyms that I give them are there. So my findings. The first finding is that all participants acknowledged that they indeed received tuition subsidy from the government. So Sarah says, I'll be reading some of these quotes. Because of time, I can't read everything. Okay, so Ronke says it's a federal university, so you don't have to pay through your nose for the tuition. I believed that, oh, okay. It's believed that the federal government takes some responsibility for funding the operation of schools. So the lecturers are being federal government. Oh my God. So the second finding that the participants claimed that the purpose of tuition subsidy that they received from the government is to grow the health force. So Kumi says, I think the subsidized tuition maybe as a way to encourage people to study the course. Should I say to meet the demand? Because the health need is constantly growing and there is a need for workforce, a constant growth of workforce. So the participants acknowledged that, okay, the reason why the Nigerian government is sponsoring, is giving subsidized tuition is to grow the health workforce. Then the participants also talked about the components of health workers' education. And I found out that including the subsidized tuition, there's also parental funding, personal efforts, external non-governmental scholarships. So Sarah says, my parents paid the subsidized fee. Apart from the subsidized school fees, we had to buy some other materials to train as a dentist. So those ones were not funded by the government. Neither were they funded by any subsidized tuition. You have to pay, so it's a lot of money, more than 100,000, even more than 200,000.
You have to round up.
Okay. And another finding is that the reason for health workers' migration is due to poor working conditions, stunted career growth, and poor remuneration. Now, determining the proportionality. So health workers felt like what the government is asking for is not commensurate to what they have received. So Thank God says, I don't think compulsory service is a justifiable take for the Nigerian government because you didn't just give somebody an opportunity to go into healthcare. And Ronke says they already took 1 year from us through compulsory national youth service. That 1 year is the reciprocity that they are getting. I served them for 1 year. They took me to the remotest area to work. In fact, the government of that state is still owing me 7 months' salary. So the point of the oh my God. Can you still see my screen?
No,
No.
we're supposed to say. We are seeing your desktop.
Oh my God.
You swiped. You swiped on
Okay.
your.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it on now?
Yes.
Okay, so rounding off, what I found out is that the Nigerian government is not solely responsible for health workers' education because non-governmental investments in the form of parental funding, personal funding, non-governmental scholarships play a significant role in their education. So the argument of, oh, the Nigerian government has sponsored health workers, so they have to give back, they have to serve for 5 years, the argument is ridiculous because it's not the government that has solely funded them. There is a lot of things, there's a lot of efforts going into health workers' education. And secondly, why the Nigerian government... Okay. So let me just like quickly round up. Oh my, okay. So my recommendation is that for the Nigerian government to tackle the medical brain drain challenge, they have to invest fully in health workers' education. They have to address push factors that is driving health workers' migration. enable good environments, then explore the idea of contracts or cyclical migration and tax programs. And then the limitation of this study is the small sample size. So for my future research, I'm thinking of increase the sample size and to also figure out how much the Nigerian government is investing in health workers education. Thank you very much for listening. Okay.
Thank you so much, Damilola, for your presentation. We'll take questions after the last presenter. And Oluyemi, I'm sorry. Okay, we'll listen to you. You have 10 minutes.
Do you have the slide here?
Is it? Yeah?
I mean, if you can. Let's
So what's
Which
what's
one?
in it?
Black tax?
Which one?
Yes, you can share.
It's not there.
Yes. You can share.
It's not shared. No, I said that's not it. Yeah.
Right. Good evening, everyone. I'm Local by name. I'm a top operator from the Mobilities and also not a scholar like every other people. I'm just trying to find out what has been a cause for my business not booming in the state the last 1 or 2 years. That led to me having this research, which is tourism as a mechanism for work-life balance among the state workers in Nigeria. In this contemporary what's it called era we are, is it better like Maria?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so achieving healthy work-life balance remains a major issue to us in the global scale, not only in Nigeria but everywhere, whereby everyone wants to attain or achieve their career peak, then also acquire some other things. And this tends to pose a threat onto how to do this thing without making either of our personal life or the work we are doing to be affected. According to Obiano and Faji, it says achieving a healthy work-life balance remains a big challenge for many employees globally due to competing profession and personal demands. It's very important to say that and tourism provides a powerful tool to enhance work-life balance, offering restorative experience that reduces stress and improve the overall well-being of workers. My research question, like I said, I'm not a researcher. I'm trying to see what happened, what fits into a state that we do not have a business turnover for some time, what we have in other parts of the state. It says to identify the specific tourism preferences of workers in the state, to assess how participation in tourism activities impacts stress reduction and well-being among the workers. Because I believe that if it's something that helps their well-being or their stress reduction, then it should be something they should have more interest in, not just as something of fun, but of something with value. And that's what says to identify the barriers that hinder the use of tourism to achieve work-life balance among state workers. For my research, I make use of a quantitative form of research by using questionnaire to get data from people, both public and private workers in the states, and knowing that I have to divide them into different strata. So for the public servants, we look at the healthcare workers, we look at educators, and one for the private workers, we look at corporate professionals such as human resource manager, the bankers, admin officer, as well as entrepreneurs in the states who have one or two, who have small businesses. They are handling not with public sectors. We have the health professionals, transport and logistics workers. To ensure that we have a balanced representation of these workers, both parties, we chose 15 members from each of these sectors, at least in this public sector, 15 workers who are working as teachers, as lecturers, as nurse from different walks of life, then also for what's it called, private sectors too, we did the same thing. I wouldn't want to bore you. Okay, so before I go into my findings, I would like to take a random sample if my chair will give me the chances to do that. All right, so if a private worker is here, I need to raise your right hand up. A private worker, you work in the private sector. Please above your head, please. Above your head. Okay, if you work in please raise it up. If you work in the public sector, your left hand up. Above your head, please. Okay. So, okay. So if you're in between, you don't in both private and public, your two ends up. Okay. All right. So for the private and public workers, if you've engaged in any tourism activity in the last 6 months, your hands up. If you've engaged in tourism activities in the last 6 months, like you can't go see, went on hiking, maybe your friend, a picnic, a few items, not please your hands up. Nobody. So for both, all right, okay, 1, 2. Yeah, all right. So just be out of like 18 of us in this room. Thank you. Something I'm finding is during our research, we notice that we have more of the younger ones who give us the data that is between the age of 20 to 40. They're the one that they're in to feel like these are the people who travel more or who want to explore since they are still young. And most of them happens to be in private sector. We might say that we are looking at private sectors and public sectors. But while still doing that, we also notice that some were juggling between 2 different jobs. They have a job in private sectors and also working with the public sector. So we just put them as one. So it was like 67.4% of those workers who are in private sectors. The income level falls between the price of 51,000 to 100,000 monthly. During this research, we got to know that most of the workers in the state actually did not involve in tourism activities. They did not, based on reasons like finance, time, family engagement, and other things like that. Why some also talk about their work being a challenge to them? They work from 9 to 5, 8 to 4, and before they get back to come back from work, they're already tired and stuff like that. Yet, even though Ekiti State identity is a religious state, most likely with Christian and Muslim, we got to know that most of these students participate more in cultural tourism. They go more for festivals. It's not like if you do a festival in Adekiti, they go for Olosuta in Ikere, which means that they are still attached to their culture more than they embracing ecotourism, not minding the religious setting they belong to. Also, yeah, okay. Why things like ecotourism, that is hiking, is not a major tax for them or something they fall in love with. Okay, so going forward with our findings, we got to know that this really aligns with Bukola and Collect 2018. That most Nigerians rarely engage in tourism due to time and financial constraints, impacting work-life balance. It also supports the findings of Abuiza and Unwanko 2018 that tourism psychological and social benefits, particularly its moderate impact on balancing personal and professional negatives. Anyone engaged in tourism activities that through personal activity or by firm or by corporate organization, there's a way it tends to give a balanced life to their productivity in their workspace. Conclusion. Tourism plays a vital role in enhancing work-life balance, stress reduction, and well-being among workers in the state. 2. Despite diverse social democratic background, there's a shared appreciation of tourism psychological and social benefits by these workers. They all agree that maybe in the past, when they attend any of these tourism activities, it helps to boost their working engagement, maybe the following week or the following month. However, low participation due to systematic barriers like work pressure, finances, and time are one of the cogent limits why they do not partake in tourism activities. Recommendations. It was said that all these all findings that if possible for government and private sectors to try to input um, a better policy that tends to help workers, maybe hangout session for workers. I know that this is not something common among the, let me say, the public sector, whereby maybe the boss MD or the HOD of the department talk to them, guys, let's go on hangout, let's go on picnic or sightseeing. They are saying that if possible, government and workers should input this thing into their staff policy. But lastly, there should be more tourism awareness for staff, for members of the community. It should not only be for people in the tourism sector, or it should be considered as a luxury activity. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. We have 4 presenters, and the first presenter, Nova, explored the issue of law evidence and as it relates to witchcraft, and especially how Mago infliction, is used as a control of paramount practice in the colonial era. While Muhyiddin also presented something on exorcism and how it relates to healing and health and public health, especially complementary, health practices. While Damilola passionately argued about this compulsory service for Nigerian health workers, and I think we need to take that further. And it's important that, so Lucas told us about tourism and how it creates work balance. And before I let everyone ask their question, I think I have maybe just few things to say. I know, but I was reflecting on everything you have said, and I would have loved that. Don't mind me, I'm an anthropologist, and witchcraft is a whole big thing in anthropological studies. What is witchcraft from your own study? Let's hear you out. I think that is very important. And then to Muhyiddin, I was wondering that can we have division and healing without exhausting? Then at what point can we say this is the limitation of exorcism? And then at what point can we say exorcism becomes illegality? I think you need to. Then I also reflected, and I'm thinking that, okay, can we relate exorcism to some contemporary practices like Kayamata and the rest? And then can we even refer to it as just a simple process of deliverance? So I think you need to respond to that. Upcoming, I will ask my own, and I will let everyone put their questions. Then Damilola, I am biased about your presentation. I'm sure some people are laughing, not because I work in a college of medicine, and I think I have a different perspective to it. So I'm not going to say anything. Then Tolu, I said, I just wrote it that does lack of tourism translate directly to lack of work balance? After all, some of us, after the work, we go to staff club to chill out, and relax. And so we need to speak to that for us. And then, plus that, I'm going to take the first 5 questions. The man from Mississippi, he's been raising his hand. I can see 1, 2, 3, Dr. Tolu, 4, 5. So we go in that order. So 1.
Okay, quickly, Omar, guys, sorry, your study is very interesting, exorcism. And then my question is, I want you to clarify, is there a situation where exorcism is voluntary and compulsory? Then if it is the latter, please, sorry, voluntary or compulsory, this part. Like what I mean is there are situations where the possessed is being brought to the exorcist. And there are situations where the exorcist kind of sees the possessed, whether by divine power or whatever, which is I'm relating this work to prophecy, religion and prophecy. Situations where somebody will just dictate and then a possessed in the midst of the crowd and come and say, you get out. You know, the spirit will start manifesting, right? So what I mean is, if we put it, even though you're coming from a linguistic aspect, right? But I am thinking, because I'm a historian, I am trying to philosophize. If exorcism is compulsory, how can we relate it to infringement of rights? When someone doesn't want it, the next one is about the symbol. What you talked about symbol, right? What makes a symbol more powerful than the other? For instance, in Christianity, Catholicism that you mentioned, they use the Blessed Sacrament, Holy Communion. And I have watched instances of when these symbols are used, the possessed respond more. Leave me alone, you know, that kind of thing. And then, but when it is verbal, they try to be resistant. Like, why is that? Why is the symbol more powerful than the verbal?
Okay, number two. Yeah. Okay. To you, sorry, I think I don't know your name. Sorry. Please, in terms of the practice and tradition, you mentioned that in Christendom, practice of exorcism, that Catholic practice it more. Meanwhile, to my own understanding, I know the white garment churches, that is what they do mostly. Yes, because I remember from experience that it was the white garment churches that gave us the first solution to it. And to the man studying Ekiti State, I'm a civil servant in Ekiti. I'm an administrative officer in Ekiti. So, looking at tourism in Ekiti, we only have one that is functioning. And that one has been privatized. I can remember the last time I used their swimming pool there, I used 500, but now if you don't have 5,000, you can't, your little child cannot swim in that swimming pool, not to talk of doing other things. And you know, I told you the last time I went to Eridesha, most of us now move to Eridesha based on the fare we pay there, you know, fare pay in Eridesha still open to everyone, not like the couples that we have. And we have a lot of beer parlors. When they're coming from the work, they stay at beer parlors, they relax. And there is a guy in Ekiti that is more of these stories, Jennifer Dre. He will be a very good guy to your work. He's also planning another one for next week at Erika building. What's it called? No, not only the waterfall and their hills. Some of us are paid. So you will be a good guide for your work. Okay, and sorry, and to her, you mentioned non-governmental, our topic is non-governmental investment. And she has been mentioning government versus the students and those that, you know, where is the government coming in? Your topic is about non-governmental investments. You know, the topic should also tell us, and to the man that studied issue at what they call it, Orisha. Okay, I'm okay. Okay, come on.
Yeah, so thank you. My question is to Damilola Oduola. So I am struggling to figure out something in your presentation. So you are analyzing all of this using the theoretical lens of reciprocity. Now, if you are going to evaluate that reciprocity, I think that there has to be a quantitative element in all of this. So if we know how much the government invests on each medical student, say 100,000 naira per year or something, are you also considering quantifying the labor of the health worker who now graduates and starts to work in the medical civil service, or even the value of National Youth Service? Because one of them mentioned that they had already done a 1 year compulsory service. If you are going to, I mean, you talked about fitness and all of these terminologies. Basically, you are trying to create some form of you are trying to equate this and that, right? And if you're going to equate that, we have to be able to quantify the value of the National Youth Service as against what the government has put in. If we are able to do that, we will know if, okay, after graduating and doing your youth service, you are still owing the government 100,000 naira, or the government is owing you 50,000 naira. And then we can now understand what level of service you still need to put in, or you do not have to put in.
Thank you. Number 4.
Thank you. My question goes to Samuel. I don't know, there are ethical, I don't know if you took ethical clearance because, yeah, I think it should have reported that too, because it also has implications for benefits and harms. Then to Mr. Oluyemi, I want to know why we pick a state. That's one. Then what will be more interesting is if you did a comparative analysis between private workers and public workers. I mean, to see the connections, to see how they both stand side by side. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you. Rockman.
Yes, I think she asked a couple of what I was bringing up. Differentiating between accessible language, the infrastructure, and the fact that most of the time, the fact that the trending white garment was find this done as the normal. And then even if it's postal countries. So how do you differentiate between the accessible and the Nigerians?
Okay, we can take Dr. Adebayo then. You have let the presenters respond.
Okay, thank you very much. To all the presenters, I think this session has been fascinating. I really enjoyed the very striking ideas or even almost radical ideas that have been advanced. I think it's bold, and I commend the convener for putting up for putting all of this together. It's really wonderful. And I think in the spirit of that kind of conversation, certain points of confusion also needs to be raised or communicated to the presenters. Now, the first one for me has to do with the Imam's work, which I think that at the point that you got to the doing the semiotic analysis, and all of that, I think that is fascinating, and also particularly because that is your forte, that's where you work, that space. But then I'm worried about the mental health context and healing that you are talking about, because I see a struggle to biomedicalize gene possession. In fact, I have to start digging. Your colleague who is based at Kansas, I saw the paper he presented at the BSc last year. And then the paper that you referenced in New Zealand, and I saw the same thread, right? We started from SDG and all of that, and then got to this point. So for me, when he's talking about the symptoms, he's talking about anxiety, confusion, and all these things. These are defined mental health issues, right? So how does gene differ from that, gene possession? And I'm asking this also because at the point in the paper presented by your colleague last year at ASA, one of the participants that was quoted in reference to public stigma said that when they were looking at that people, when they are talking about this person, is talking about, they said the person, they are seeing the person that is possessed by gene before, but that in community, people always think that this person has a mental health problem. That means the participant that you are quoting is also trying to make a distinction between gene possession and mental health. So, and I'm worried that the perspective of your participants are being subsumed under the attempts to forcefully, biomedicalize this phenomenon. So I think that's kind of tension that you have to deal with. I think there could be like an interface, but that has to be really, really, really thought through. My very good friend that presented on nursing and services and all of that, I think there's a whole space to have that conversation, whether or not poor countries are subsidizing the rich. But we also risk enforcing, immobility. We also risk enforcing the mobility, and that the issue or addressing the root cause of health worker mobility, cannot be dealt with by these enforced services. It doesn't work. And as a very interesting poet said, that nobody leaves their home unless the home is the mouth of a shark. We should really, really, really hold that. My very last comment, I'm sorry, madam, is about the tourism. One of the biggest problem that I have with tourism discourse, in Nigeria today is lack of interest in presenting radical, creative way of thinking about how tourism works, or how people relax, how people engage in recreational activities in this part of the world. Yes, sir.
No, I'm not. They are still here.
So in this part of the world, the way that people relax is built into their everyday life. Now, I'm based at University of Ibadan. At times I close from work. I'm just walking about and I stop at Wale's office. And then before you know it, another 2 minutes, we end up somewhere, and then we are drinking, we are talking, and all of that. Now, that could be related to the way that our work, the work life, everything is like infused together. It may not even be healthy to live like that. But we need to understand that people are not relaxing. People are not relaxing. We need to unbundle that and see how the kind of idea of relaxation that we are thinking about, can reflect the experiences of people who are here, not just like imposing the top-down understanding of tourism and expect that we take that up, particularly considering the context of capital dispossession and even insecurities, that shape everyday life in this part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have someone online.
Yeah.
Can we read the comments?
No, she's trying to raise her hand to
Okay,
speak.
we should be able to talk. Okay.
Okay. Hello, can you hear me?
In 1 minute, we can give us your comments. 1 minute.
Okay. My name is Oluwatola Daniels from the University of California, Davis. I just have a single comment. First thing, let me just quickly say my background. I'm a historian, but I'm not going to ask the question as a historian because I need to also express my context so that I'm not speaking from my context. Okay, my comment and question is to the man on exorcism. So I would like to ask, forgive me for going this straightforward. Why do you think someone who is a religion scholar and has no faith, a religion scholar with no faith, why do you think that kind of person should care about exorcism? Then number two, I think you should have some mercy, on your audience. Okay, have some pity in your audience a little bit. That sometimes they don't have that background. They don't understand it. They don't want it. They don't know it. So how do you then begin to incorporate your audience outside of religion into your work? I think one way to do it is to add a note to say that, okay, this is my archive, this is what I have, this is how I want to go about it, this is who I am. To kind of say that, okay, this is where I practice, this is where I believe, and then go ahead to say what you want to say. And I should say finally that you don't need anybody to believe or not believe exorcism is real or not. Don't put, I think we sometimes as researchers we put that burden on ourselves and say, I want to prove. I think most times we should not just do that, we should go with the archive that we have, the resources that we have to show the essence of what we're doing. So I think my 1 minute is over. Thank you.
Thank you, Oluwashola. Thank you. So I think we give each participant, each presenter, pardon me, 2 minutes to do their response. We'll start from Aloba, Muideen, then we'll go to Damilola, and then Tony. So, Aloba, you are on. 2 minutes for your response.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope I'm audible enough. So I think I have actually one question, but before I answer that one question, I just want to note to the presenter on exorcism. It will be interesting to see how this topic also emanates in Orisha religion discourses, because frankly, it's not only relegated to Christian clerics' performance or exorcism or Muslim clerics doing the same. It was also very a burning conversation in the 1930s and 1940s when Orisa religion priests were trying to unionize and register before the colonial government. But to my actual question by the chair regarding asking me to define witchcraft, I'm surprised that is coming from you, an anthropologist, because I should be making an indictment.
Study, just study. How do you explain witchcraft?
I know, but you're an anthropologist, and I must indict you publicly that your discipline is responsible for the problem we're dealing with now. As you know, colonial anthropologists were the one that defined what witchcraft is. By the way, to be much more serious, yeah, colonial anthropologists in the late 19th century were the one who actually defined the parameters of what witchcraft was and what it wasn't. And colonial officers kind of brought that definition and imposed it on African epistemes, more so Yoruba religion and religious practices. And I think the struggle to define it is what I'm actually nodding to here. It was never really clearly defined. The Yoruba chiefs acting as judges in the native court, they struggled to define it. They couldn't define it for decades. And of course, as I explained earlier, it's led to massive legal and religious tensions in the colony. But I must add, lastly, that the attempt to disambiguate it is central to my dissertation, and it's not something I can actually answer within 2 minutes. But the bottom line is that it is not Orisha religion or Orisha religious practices. That at least what the Yoruba resistance movement was trying to say in response to this attempt by the colonial government to equate Orisha religion with witchcraft. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you. Okay, Muidi, 2 minutes.
So 2 minutes is not enough for what.
But you can place
Let me just go to some central parts. To Dr. I don't know his name. Thank you for your input. But I must say that, as I said, our work is work in progress. In fact, we are, I think it was last week, yes, at New Zealand, because we just came back from a presentation in New Zealand. At New Zealand, we talked about epistemic violence. We are now advocating a move away from the Western conception of biomedicine and now advocating for something like a complementarity of, okay, Western biomedicine and what we can call alternative medicine. It's not something single to Islamic epistemology. Even Christian exorcism, even traditional, what Anaba Mayoga called Orisha and other things. So these things, we are now moving towards it. And at least now we had a lot of discussion, we cannot really, but that is just a little about that. Now, the chair talks about, at what point we have religion and healing without exorcism. Now, let me just explain that with a simple analogy. We have had some of our respondents, we have had people who are non-Muslims, because we are talking about Islamic epistemology. So let me use that. We have had people who are non-Muslims who have seen healing through exorcism. I mean Islamic exorcism. And maybe that would take me to my brother from Enugu, Inamdi Azikwe. He was talking about is exorcism voluntary or compulsory? Every institution that practices exorcism defines what it does and what it doesn't. For example, Christian exorcism will not be compulsory except in terms of denomination. Maybe the people in CAC, they might say that immediately I see you and I see something to cast out of you, it must be compulsory. But in Islamic exorcism, you will come yourself. Immediately you are feeling the heat of the spiritual affliction or whatever, you will come yourself. So it is obligatory. Even I have respondents who are non-Muslims that came, they brought somebody who is maybe a friend, who is a Muslim for healing. And during the exorcism section, the demon will tell them that this same person also had this. So let us take that. So these are things that are happening. But, my sister online talked about. This is something that is happening. It's not compulsory. Now, maybe I should also talk about Kaya Mata. Now, Kaya Mata is also an effect of what will lead to exorcism. Because we believe, or should I say some aspects in exorcism believe that Kaya Mata is
is an aftermath of a spiritual affliction. So if somebody comes and they say that Yahweh teaching your wife has done something to you, so they believe that it's a demonic possession that they had to cast out with exorcism. What makes one symbol more powerful than the other? Another analogy. What makes a drug more effective than the other? So it depends on it depends on what the person that afflicts that person with whatever thing that they afflicted you with that will determine the symbol. So for example, we showed where something like a small shrine. So you will differentiate whatever effect that would bring from somebody who only blew into, I think, what they call something like that. So the effect of it. So and for my our mother, deliverance and exorcism. The last one, deliverance and exorcism. Now, deliverance and exorcism might not be different, but it depends on the conception and the people that are defining it. For example, in Islam, if you are talking about Islamic exorcism, they do not believe anything is deliverance. Yes, in time, literally, you can say that exorcism is a form of delivering somebody for demonic affliction, but they do not use the term. So that was why I said it depends on the people that are saying it and what they mean by what they are saying. So, but because you have not really studied this, yes, maybe that's another research exploration that you have given me now. I've noted it. So yes, this is about spirit. But for Catholics, they only use exhaust. It is because an extension of what the Christendom talks about deliverance. That is why the Catholics will never use for this. They won't use deliverance. They will use exhaustion. So it depends on which institution is defining what that will determine the kind of term they use.
We need to let the spirit. Now, we are on 2 minutes. I think you can unmute yourself.
All right. So the first question I have here is like, what does non-governmental mean? And non-governmental investments, as my topic said. So what I was just trying to point out is that the dominant narrative in the literature and even with the Nigerian government is that government has invested in health workers by subsidizing their tuition and funding public institution. But from my findings, I found out that non-governmental investments in the form of parental funding, personal funding, some got non-governmental scholarships. So all these funding sources also played significant roles in health workers' education. So the implication of that is that the Nigerian government cannot say that, oh, we are the ones solely responsible for health workers training, because there's also the non-governmental investment. And if the Nigerian government is saying, oh, because we have invested in your education, you should undergo compulsory service, then parents that have also trained their children by paying fees, paying different things, they also have the right to say, oh, my daughter or son
Okay.
or child also holds me a reciprocal obligation. So that is what the non-governmental investment means in that context. Then
Okay.
okay. I thought like someone is saying something.
Okay.
Okay. I'll just continue. The second question I have is the qualitative research that to kind of see whether the benefits received by health workers is commensurate to compulsory service, that there's a lot of quantitative research that is needed. And I quite agree with that. It's something that I'm working on. Firstly, there's not much information on what the Nigerian government is investing in health workers. Nobody knows how much the Nigerian government is subsidizing health workers. Probably if people know, then we would be able to like figure out, okay, do health workers indeed hold something to the Nigerian government? Does the NYSC cover what health workers are owing and all? But without any specific evidence, without anything to verify the Nigerian government's claim, you can't just say, oh, health workers should undergo 5 years compulsory service because you have subsidized their tuition, and we don't know what you have subsidized. We don't know what you have given. So that's like where the tension is, that while the government is saying they have done this, we don't know what they have done. And but we
Thank
know
you.
that the effect of the compulsory service is just pathetic. And
Okay.
the
Your
third
time is up.
question about compulsory service. All right. About compulsory service limiting immobility. That's like my position as well, that if the Nigerian government wants to adopt compulsory service, then there has to be like a very strong justification for it, but definitely not reciprocity, that, oh, because you are owing or something, because you don't know what health workers are even owing. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. We send you the bill. Okay.
All right, thank you for the questions posed at me. So I'll start with Dr. Tolu asking why Ekiti. Before I start my discussion, so that I reside in Ekiti State, and my business is in Ekiti State, so that is the bias to why.
Very funny.
That's why I'm doing research in Ekiti State. Then about everything, analysis between the private and the public sector. Yes, so in our findings, because there is slightly different between the both parties. So it's not about the party has more higher hand than the other hand. It's just on the same pedestal. They're talking about if you still having low tourism, let me say functioning tourism sites. Well, I beg to agree with that, because if I can mention 5 to 7 tourism sites that are working presently, depending on what you refer to as tourism destination. We have Togosi, we have Antawater Fall, we have Asha Garden, we have Ego Dam, we have the Civic Center, we have the Art Gallery. So it depends on what you are looking for and how informed you are. Talking about this, Julia is my brother. We work most times, and last month we had a camping event to the first plane crash in Nigeria. Those are close to because it's not space. Does lack of tourism translate to lack of work-life balance? Am I correct? Well, I was saying no. It doesn't translate to work-life balance, because there are many factors that are meant to look into, like your job, how demanding your job is, how flexible your job is, and your own personal interest. Not everyone loves hiking. Not everyone. Well, some people some of my friends, them sleeping is enough for them to get reduction. Right? So some people just feeling their tools. Some people just traveling here and there. It's okay for them. People just relaxing. Okay. I can say that people not relaxing. And that was asked by Dr. Saifuli. Am I correct? Let me tap it. I don't know. People not relaxing. People not relaxing. That how do we tend to tell people how to preach the gospel of being against the tourism activities, right? Am I correct? So it's not until when you travel from one place to another that can you involve in tourism to settle down. For instance, now we all coming for this conference that it's a tourism activity, because you left your abode. You make use of accommodation at the hotel. You either you got for things there. So in one of that, actually involved in tourism activity. So it's not when you relax at home. That's when you involve in tourism activity. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Uman, I'll give you just 1 second to make Uman.
I think he was trying to find out.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, what? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1 second may not be enough anyway, but let me quickly say what I want to say. I've typed some of those responses regarding one of the questions asked by one of the, I think one of the members of the on the table. So trying to ask the question about mental health issues and gym possession. So the conference was referencing I tried to explain the conceptualization of mental health from the participants and how we conceptualize it. So most of these participants don't actually understand that at times they say that what happens to them is gene attack, not mental health, because it's not all mental health issues that are psychotic. So that's another thing we need to understand. So not all mental health issues actually talk about psychosis. And most of the time in Nigeria, when I talk about mental health, most of us don't even, we think that mental health has to do with psychosis, has to do with madness, has to do with being crazy and stuff like that. So it's different from the conceptualization of mental health in that study. And I tried to place the idea based on what these participants stated. And in fact, in that article, which is under review right now, it was changed entirely from the conceptualization of how these people understood it. And for more details, I will send a link to the chat section here where I try to differentiate between whether mental health, whether dream possession is mental health issue or it's a contagion or even a spiritual attack, according to what these people said. I will share the link now for that.
Thank you so much.
Reading.
I think our time is up. We have just 1 minute. I hand over back to the organizer of this panel.
Thank you. I think we want to appreciate the participant. I also want to appreciate the panelists. Thank you for having me be confident about the work. And I also want to appreciate the discussant as well, Dr. Victor Lawye. Dr. Education on board. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, we can't definitely end the discussion here, it's going to be ongoing. So feel free to network, feel free to collaborate, feel free to reach out, and we should continue to maintain this academic network. And hopefully when some other conference opportunity comes up, I will be able to meet everyone of us as well. Thank you.
Thank you.